the same haircut.
Yeah.
When did we meet? 2014, I think. Same haircut.
Yeah.
Portland.
You're looking good, man.
Thanks, bro. It's been, I should probably do more exercise practice than I do. But it's been good.
I hear you.
You look good too, bro.
I thank you. I probably took like 6 months off from going to the gym, and it's terrible when we work in the industry and you like don't even like practice what you preach.
That's why I'm wearing black.
Yeah, mid-December I got back into it, man, and we're a week into March, and I can say that I have missed no more than maybe 1 or 2 rest days a week since then, and I just got myself in the habit. Yeah, man, I've probably in the last 90 days I've probably logged 81, 82 days of exercise.
Wow.
Yeah, feeling great.
What was the burst? Like, what was the catalyst?
The burst was just realizing that like nothing else was really helping. You know, I think over the last couple of years, mental health came to light, and I don't think there's a single person that says, "Oh, I'm 100% mentally healthy," right?
Oh yeah, dude.
And you know, you talk about medication or therapy or this, that, and the other, and it's like none of that stuff is as positively impacting mental health than just physically moving your body. You know, there's just something to be said about getting yourself going, getting a sweat, putting yourself in that zone, having that time to like clear your thought and your mind. And next thing you know, once you get back in the habit of it, you're like, God, I feel great again. I was talking to my best friend yesterday, and I was like, I can honestly say I'm happy for the first time in a long time.
And a lot of it, exercise.
Yeah, I attribute a lot of it to just moving my body.
That's legit.
Yeah,
that's legit. What was the like, if you don't mind me asking, like, what were you kind of facing? Just burnout, travel, parenthood?
Just burnout, travel. You know, COVID was obviously a life changer to many people. There were folks that lost loved ones and family. There were job shifts and adjustments and stuff there on a personal level. I had an 11-year relationship come to an end, you know.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, going from being, the model American family and picket fence and all that to like single dad and just figuring life out again and all that. Like it was difficult, you know?
Yep.
And I just finally got to a point where I came to the realization that like nothing's going to help. Nobody's going to help me. And I'm responsible for myself. And unless 100. I take accountability, none of it's going to matter.
Isn't that the truth though? Like in anything? That's one thing I'm figuring out. It's taken me about 6 months to really not even make sense. I don't know if you make sense of it all, but just understanding like, okay, where are my priorities?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and a demon that I face is this never ending search, or this never ending climb to like be a provider, to establish myself, to gain at what I thought at the time was, I got to provide for my family. What I discovered is I didn't really have that balance understood yet. And so it took me kind of falling, right? Yeah. Losing relationships, where you start to recalibrate where your priorities are at. And it's super cliche, bro. Like it's really cliche, but man, going through it and just kind of dealing with loss since last August,
mm-hmm.
Wasn't as like an intimate relationship like you had 11 years, man, I'm so sorry to hear that. But in its own right, it's still a loss. And my wife even said, hey, you're really grieving right now.
Right.
You're going through the stages of grieving. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I really am.
Yeah.
I really, really am.
Yeah.
And for me was interesting, full transparency. I didn't exercise. What I did was I coached the hell out of my baseball team, really dug in. It was very active. Don't get me wrong. Right. because I'm running the drills. Not only am I their head coach, but we're doing strength and conditioning. So I'm demoing. So I did work out. I didn't plan like a workout for myself. I did demos and the workouts for the kids. And but still, to your point, like I was breathing heavy. But after you feel the sense of accomplishment and like you contributed, you did something positive, and then physically, you know, you get fed that juice, man. That
Yeah.
dopamine, the endorphins. I feel you.
I've embraced and accepted the new reality of my life. And I have changed my shift and focus to the positive aspects of everything, looking at the smaller wins and collecting those and not necessarily hunting the elephant. It's like let's go after these small wins. They all add up to one another. And as men, we do have a sense to be the providers and the protectors and the leaders, and something significant that causes an end to a business relationship or a personal relationship, I think really gets you at your core, because you're like, well, all these things that I was doing and all these things that I thought were the right things, didn't have necessarily the outcome that I thought they would after all this time and energy and effort that was put forth into it.
Or they were empty. They returned empty.
Yeah.
Even though you got the thing, right? It
Yeah.
returned empty.
Yeah.
It's such a weird, that juxtaposition of your journey and your destination
Mm-hmm.
on that journey that you thought was the one, and just how man, there are lessons learned along the way, and you realize, oh shit, I was on the wrong journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I had the wrong plan. It just goes, I think it says something about just understanding that sometimes you could be really doing some amazing things, but on the wrong plan.
Yeah.
You're still winning. You're still
Yeah.
doing great, but what's that within the context of what that plan was? It was the wrong plan. We didn't know it at the time, and so you learn, and it's yeah. You got me in. Like, I mean, you've seen me go through some stuff, but it's interesting having gone through that and coming to
Yeah.
the realization of where's my priorities, and so I'm glad to see it still on that journey. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's great. I will tell you, like, the silver lining out of all this, uh, my little girl's 5 now,
That's crazy.
right.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
relationship that I have with her now that we've established over the last 2 years of it being me and her, um, I don't think we would ever have gotten to this level if we had a two-parent household. I would have been so hyper focused on work and success and all these other things that I would have overlooked the most developmentally important parts of her life. I'm able to instill morals and ethics into her and sit down and actually talk through things with her. And it's made me a better man being able to raise a girl on my own and, you know, just help her see how important resilience is,
Yeah.
how important integrity is.
How's it affecting? How was that? Like, I see you out and about again. Like, how was that? How are you managing that now? Because you're doing your thing again, but I guess it's really different, right?
It is different. It's different, and there are some similarities. So from the
Yeah.
time my daughter could remember, dad was always out of the house one week and home another week.
Yeah.
So she always had that. Thank God. So now I have her for a week straight, and then her mom has her for a week straight. And the way that I do it is the weeks that I have her, I travel no further out than being able to get back to pick her up from school.
Yep.
So
Non-negotiable. That's just what it is.
non-negotiable. Yeah, it's just what it is. I cannot make a meeting I can't fly to Idaho. Not going to do it. It's just impossible. Now I'll come out and do it next week,
Yeah.
and that's where the similarity comes into place. So I was always used to traveling every other week consistently. So I balance it so that when she's back to her mom, I'm back into travel mode. Like if you look at
Yeah.
my calendar, it's like office week, local,
It's like every other, right?
right? Every other, right? Last week we just had our 5th annual Hydromassage factory tours where we invite some of our high level clients and potential future clients, and we just really make it a networking event. There's no sales involved
Yeah.
whatsoever. Everybody shows up. We go do an hour and a half tour through the factory. They see the production line. They get to meet Paul Lunter, Kevin Conway, our president and CEO. They go through everything. From that point on, it's literally 3 days of peer-to-peer networking. This year uh, we had a yacht for an entire day. I mean, you got Mike Feeney that's been doing this thing for decades and has opened hundreds, if not thousands, of clubs, to up and coming guys like Landon Burningham with 5 locations.
Yeah. Yeah. Physique.
And these guys are all talking to each other,
Yeah. So cool.
It was interesting this year. I was able to bring the Seattle YMCA's out to this event with me. And typically nonprofits and for-profits don't play well together, to put it, as gently as possible. It was amazing to see the camaraderie and the level of sharing and information. You might be on the other side of the country or you might be in another country, but your reputation, integrity, your word means everything. And people, gravitate towards those that are successful, and those that are successful are the ones that are willing to share with other people too. It's like, hey, I'm doing really good with something and I can show you how to do that as well. So we can all, um, be better at business. The important thing that I consistently try to remind myself, whether I'd first gotten into this industry a decade and a half ago, or whether I'm going and talking to a new client for the first time, at the end of the day, regardless of what we're selling, I don't care if you're selling flooring and lockers, if you're selling cardio and strength, if you're selling recovery products. If you don't have the end user in mind and you're looking at a commission check or to try to put a new product out and place it somewhere, you're going to fail, right? And I try to make that a point with my customers when I'm talking to them. I have a solution for you. It's going to fulfill multiple needs that you have, whether that's retention, revenue, differentiation, all those things, right? But at the end of the day, how does my product make your client feel? Will it make them want to come back to your facility again? Will it keep them on that reoccurring payment longer? Will they tell their friends and family? Will it get them in the gym an extra day or two, a week? Because at the end of the day, everything that we're doing, there's a noble cause to all of us that are in commercial fitness. We help people live happier, healthier lives. And if that means a person gets to spend more time playing with their grandchildren, or somebody gets to meet a weight or health goal, or somebody's able to defeat demons that they've been battling in their head that other avenues just haven't been working out. If we truly go into our business with the end user in mind and what their needs and goals are, we'll all be successful, right? Because your clients can tell. Your clients can tell. They can tell if you're trying to nickel and dime them. If you're sitting there trying to sell them crap and you don't care.
And that's where I wanted to go with that, because with you, I could always tell. Like your approach was always, when you were doing on the fitness equipment side. Mm-hmm. It's what I always respected about you is there's really no bullshit. It was just all respect, all love, all camaraderie, all communication. It was just like working with a homie. We were small potatoes, and you still gave us like big time attention. And I'm curious because I think about how it's affecting me in trying to grow my business now. The couple that I'm trying to do on a smaller scale here locally in my hometown. How has it changed your perspective, being, relationship end and, girl dad and loving every minute of it and having that week at a time? But what does that shift in your perspective and your approach when you deal with, high leverage situations with massive dollars on the line, with trouble, I can only imagine that it's shifted. Something has shifted for you in how you look at that. And I mean, you've always been a gamer to me in how you treat people and how you extend. I can only imagine, I'd love to hear how this has really positively affected those relationships, or not. I guess I'll let you expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, on the personal aspect of it, it has allowed me to really value that time that I do have with my daughter. When you don't see your own child for 7 days at a time, and it's not because you're traveling or working, it's because you can't, um, it makes being present that much more important.
Yeah. Yeah.
On a personal note, in 2021, I deleted Facebook.
I
I got
know.
off
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, bro.
2021 over 2 years now, and I haven't been on it. Haven't gotten on there. Haven't touched it. I'm not on any of the supplementary apps. I'm not on Messenger. I was like, I'm off of this,
Yeah.
you know. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I made a post on Instagram, and my Instagram was a personal Instagram. Didn't have anything to do with business. And I was like, hey, folks, 2021, I got off Facebook. I found some clarity. I was able to enjoy more time. You know, Instagram, filled that void, but I'm finding that human interaction is more important than the influencer life or people, rose colored lenses and everything's fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm signing off.
Yeah.
Every one of you has my cell phone number. Everybody knows how to get a hold of me. I'm out. Um, so I made an active decision to be completely off social media. I've been off of it, and I'll tell you, um, I deleted it on a Friday night after I let that post sit for a few days and answered a couple of direct messages and stuff. People thought there was something wrong. They're like, "Is everything okay? Do you
Yeah.
need somebody to talk to?" I'm like, "Dude, this is like a good thing. I promise you."
Yeah.
The following day, it was a Saturday, and I had my daughter. We played from the time she woke up until she went to bed. Anything she wanted to do, whether it was
Yeah.
Legos or to go ride her bike or
It
to
was a
go,
yes day for your daughter.
yeah, right. And I'm not being distracted by this thing buzzing in my hand or, like those little 5-10 minute increments wind up taking away from a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it was bedtime that night. Well, it took 3 minutes for her to go to bed. And I was like, gosh, she was really tired today, you know? And it's because on a personal level, these shifts and these changes made me realize how important being present is, and how to identify distractions that get in the way of um, those important times.
Yeah.
And giving up social media has already paid off dividends just in the last 2 weeks. I'm only looking forward to see what this thing does in the next month, 6 months to a year. I dug into it a little bit. I'm one of those guys that likes to know about things. I like to research something. I love YouTube University. Need to fix something, I'll go watch 2 or 3 videos and figure it out. So I was like,
100%. I'm
hey,
educated by YouTube.
yeah, I'm like, what are the benefits of quitting social media? What are the things? And in today's day and age, if we're looking at like our youth and our teenagers and stuff, their levels of depression, anxiety, suicide, things like that are astronomical. And if you look at the timeline of when these numbers started really increasing, it's as these social media platforms gain more and more popularity and notoriety. These kids are getting bullied 24 hours a day. They're having to live up to this expectation of what a 17-year-old influencer is doing. Ryan, the kid who does Ryan's toy reviews, made like $25 million in 1 year. It's nuts that's possible. It's also a good thing, right? Capitalism at its finest. But on the flip side of it, as I was, getting down that YouTube rabbit hole, come to find out, and my numbers might not be exactly accurate, so we might have to look at it. But they said Gen Z, this current generation that's up and coming, they're going to be the trendsetters and the ones that are going to be running the world here in the next generation or two. They said it's something like 46% of them are not on social media or have decided to cancel their social media accounts so that they can have more real life experiences. It's nuts. And Meta and TikTok and all these people are freaking out right now. They're like, how the hell do we market to this group if we're going to lose half of them?
Yeah.
at this time and age, So it's really interesting. As far as how the last few years and things have shifted on my professional life, um, it's really connecting on a more personal level with people, right? Even more so than I already did. Letting them know there's that human aspect of it. I've always been a firm believer that people do not buy fitness equipment or commercial equipment for their gyms and stuff based off of the popularity of the brand or based off of, who's got it next door. It's a relationship business.
Yeah.
You've seen sales reps that have been in this 2-3 decades, and they might have bounced around to 3 or 4 different major vendors. Their clients go with them. The client's not buying the product. The client's not buying the service. They're buying that relationship with that person that they know is going to pick up the phone on a Friday at 4 p.m. when something breaks down and tech support is on the East Coast or in another country. It's like, hey, yeah, I do have an immediate fix for you. Let's get you
Yeah.
going. This is a Band-Aid. And on Monday, as soon as somebody comes in, we're going to make sure this thing's dialed in for you. That's what people are buying, right? And just realizing and focusing and understanding that while my time with my clients might not have changed and I'm still on the same travel schedule and everything, to really get in there and not only provide solutions for whatever their needs are and stuff, but to let them know, hey, you can count on me. When I tell you, you can give me a call and I'll help you out, I will. Now, in the past, I was doing it the wrong way. 7 p.m., it's dinner time, the family's sitting around, all of a sudden somebody texts you and they're like, hey, I'm ready to sign that quote. And you're like, drop your plate, get to your computer, write the quote and send it over to them. Where now I'm like, you know what? Even if you sign it right now, I'm not going to get the equipment shipped out to you. So, hey, got it. I'll talk to you later. Guess what?
Yeah.
They're getting an email after bedtime.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like when you compare, Harris now and Harris then, there's still a lot of similarities in how you approach and how you connect with people. I still recognize this version of Harris, and we haven't seen each other in a couple of years. And I'm curious, what is this version of Harris? What have you let go of the prior version after going through all that you've gone through? It sounds like one of the things, and I guess the reverse could be true as well. What boundaries have you set? But it sounds like you've let go the need to be at everyone's beck and call because you have awareness. It's something I need to work on, if I'm being real. What other things do you find are different now that help you as a father, as a community member, professionally, sure, but
Yeah.
the things that matter. What other things are different now?
I think the most important thing that I gained for myself over the last couple of years and getting time to be myself and having those times where I'm not obligated to a spouse or to a child or whatever. Um, the thing that's changed most positively in my life is I have rediscovered the things that I was passionate about and I loved outside of fitness and outside of health, you know?
Give
Um,
me one. What's something you were discovered, if you don't mind sharing?
oh, buddy, last year I filled my tag with coho and Chinook salmon. I live in the
Hey, you're
Northwest.
a fisherman.
Yeah. And wow, I hadn't fished for 20 years. I
Wow.
fished all growing up as a
Where
kid.
did you fish?
Well, up here in the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
everything from trout, salmon, steelhead, sturgeon, all the wonderful things that we have access to.
Yeah.
And just for 20 years, like I went off in this direction, and then I went off in this direction. And I was always like, oh man, I love fishing or this, that, and the other. And a few years ago, in that YouTube wormhole or rabbit hole or whatever you want to call it that we
Yeah.
get sucked into sometimes, I found this group called Addicted Fishing. They're out of the Pacific Northwest, right? It's a guy that's got a super awesome story. He lost all of his family members to addiction, whether that was they were incarcerated or they passed away or whatever. And he says specifically, he goes, the thing that saved me from getting into that life of addiction that was all around me was that he goes, I got into fishing as a kid. And he goes, that's what I got addicted to. And he turned his passion into a career and he slowly grew that into a network of local guides and people that would help him out with stuff. Started doing um, podcasts and tutorial videos and things like that. And now they've amassed hundreds of thousands of followers. They have
Yeah.
their own brands of fishing lures and products and apparel and everything, and they're still legit. You can still go to Sportsman's Warehouse where they'll host a quarterly seminar here, and then the next one will be down in Grants Pass, and the next one's going to be up in Tukwila, and they're just in their community. They're actively a part of it. So I get into this addicted fishing channel, and I'm like, oh, that's right. That is how you tie an egg loop knot. I forgot all about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
next thing you know, all I do is buy a hook and some line. I'm sitting there watching TV, and I'm like, oh shit, I remember how to tie these knots.
Yeah.
And then, I'm like, oh, well, I better go get a salmon specific rod. Well, I need to get a trout rod. And next thing you know, you're like a grand or two into it. It's like golf or any other
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
And then it was a year or two of taking my weekends and taking my free time and just, stepping out on the river for an hour or two and just completely bombing it, losing more tackle and gear than I knew what I was doing, like not catching shit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is still fun. I'm out in nature. I'm breathing some fresh air. And one thing led to another, and things started making sense. And I started figuring out my technique and started learning some like off the beaten path fishing holes and everything. And I really got back into it about 3.5, 4 years ago, I want to say. And last year was like my first year that I filled my entire tag. And I would say that the majority of that was on my own. There was obviously a few times where I've gone out on some excursions with guides and other things. But to just really get to that primal core of being a hunter-gatherer, right? And being like, you know what? I'm going to go out here. I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to hike back 2 miles to my car, go home, fillet it, vacuum seal it. And for the next week or two, I've got the best wild caught natural salmon that money could buy, and it's those things, just finding the things that I was passionate about again.
Yeah. And I think I love the metaphor that it also provides, because it's so true. Like I love to fish too, and it resonates with me because I haven't gone fishing, and it's just like talking to you, I'm like, dang, I really need to take inventory of how I spend some of my time, because I hear it, I can see it. And I love how you said, there's a lot of nothing at the beginning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nothing, but you kept learning, losing tackle. And it's just, it's so funny how that's just what it is in life and how we in business. And here you are filling your tag. What is this? You said like a couple of years later?
Yeah, 3.5 years later.
You finally fill your tag. And I'm sure you would not trade any of the missing tackle bad days. Because the bad days, if you think about it, at least we agree, a bad day on the river, I haven't been on the river, I've been on the sea. This is a pretty dang good day when you catch nothing. It's still a pretty dang good day.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's an awesome metaphor. Did you pick anything else up? Was it primarily fishing that you went all in?
And not necessarily fishing that I was all in. Just that importance of how much self-care and self-love is worth.
Yeah.
We do so much for everybody else that we rarely make time for ourselves. So whether that it be a day that I'm on the river fishing or exploring a new place or whatever, I've always been a huge proponent on the Second Amendment. Some people listening to this might just be like, ew, cringe or whatever, but just built a good network of people that are like-minded and everything. So the other thing that I got into that was my thing that I really enjoyed is I got into competition shooting.
Nice.
There's a couple of ranges close by. My closest friend is into that world. He's the range master there. He has a couple of amazing businesses that he built from the ground up. He's like, me and him are definitely on the same wavelength and stuff when it comes to just life and thought processes and stuff like that. And he invited me out one day. He's like, dude, just come out and check it out. Like you don't even have to participate, just watch and see what we do. And if you like it, you're more than welcome to jump in. And literally the night before he invited me, I'm like, so if I want to get in on this, what is it? He's like, it's $20. That's all it costs to register. He's like, you're competing against yourself, really. He's like, there's obviously rules and stuff that you got to follow, but he's like, bring X, Y, and Z. If you've got this as your basic gear, you can run through the course. And I went through all 3 stages. I didn't place. I didn't come in last. I didn't place in the top 3, and I didn't get DQ'd. And they're like, usually the guys that come out on their first time will DQ. And since then, I've done like 2 or 3 competitions
Nice.
now. I'm looking forward to doing more. But really, like for the personal side of it, it's just finding the things that I've always been passionate about or loved and making time for those things. And it winds up making me feel more fulfilled in what I'm doing in my professional life and my
Yeah.
parenting life and things like that, because now I'm doing things for myself as well,
I
you
could
know?
imagine that, like when maybe when things don't go right, whatever, if a deal doesn't get closed or whatever the situation is in production, not that you're not paying attention to it and not that it doesn't affect you, but it sounds like, I mean, I always thought this to be true, but it sounds like even more. You just have of understanding. Like I understand the priorities in my life.
Hmm.
That'll roll off my back. I will pay attention to it because the customer deserves it, and
Right.
this is what I have to and I want to do. But if you can speak on how do you face adversity now, personally or professionally, having gone through this,
Yeah.
how do you look at it?
I don't feel that there's ever a mistake in life. It's
Mm,
only a mistake if you don't learn your lesson, right? Mistakes always happen. Things fall apart, plans don't come together, lead times get pushed out, financing falls through, construction delays, like you name it. In the entire time that I've been doing commercial fitness equipment, recovery equipment, anything, there's never been a transaction where from the time I've shaken a customer's hand and met them until they get the product and everything's installed, that it's just been great.
yeah,
There's always a hiccup somewhere, right? And I came from the service side of things. When I first started in the industry, I was turning wrenches, doing delivery and installation, service and support, for major brands. And I realized that by the time people saw me, they hated me, they hated the brand, they hated their bank, they hated their sales rep, or a combination of those things, because
yeah,
nothing was ever perfect. And I told myself, I'm like, one of these days I'm going to work for an equipment vendor and I'm going to be the rep and I'm going to be the guy that takes accountability for things. My customers have my cell phone number. Like if something breaks or goes wrong, yeah, I could push you over to service and support, or I can do that. But if I have the knowledge or I have the understanding or I can tell you how to fix it, like let me be your first point of contact. I might not even be the person that will fix it for you, but I know how to get to the right person. I know how to use my network to get you to somebody that's going to get you an answer a lot quicker than you sitting in an email queue waiting for your email to get opened up or waiting on hold for somebody to pick up the phone. You know, I'm very blessed in the fact that I work at Hydromassage.
yeah.
Um, I had the opportunity to leave Hydromassage um, a year ago, over a year ago. I left Hydromassage and went over to Precor Peloton after the acquisition, like right at everything had been announced, it was happening. I had the opportunity to go there. Um, for reasons that'll be left unsaid, I started looking to see what other options were available to me,
Yep.
and I had called Dan Kennedy about 3 months before I came back to Hydromassage, and I was like, "Hey, remember when I left? You said I left on good terms, and if I ever needed to make a phone call, to just let you know." I'm like, "I'm just planting the seed, just planting the seed, you know." And he says to me, he goes, "If I had the spot for you," he's like, "I'd bring you back in a heartbeat. We just don't have a place for you right now." He's like, "But it's good to know." And he
Yeah.
never was like, "I told you so," or whatever. As a matter of fact, when I left Hydromassage, Paul Lunter, Kevin Conaway, Dan Kennedy, all those guys that are like, we look forward to watching you succeed
Yeah.
and grow. Like we want
Real
nothing.
leadership right there. That's real
Right,
leadership. Right.
right. Not like you're making a terrible decision
Yeah.
or this is the worst thing you could do.
They're
They're like, you know
supporting
what?
you.
Yeah, if this is what's right for you, do it and kick ass while you're doing it. Right. So, anyways, I make this call to Dan 3 months before I'm ready to go. Hadn't heard from him, wasn't talking to him. Things were starting to get to that point where I'm like, I gotta go. So I called one of my old bosses and I'm like, dude, I need out and I want to come back over here and I'll take whatever territory, whatever position. He goes, give me 24 hours. He goes, give me 24 hours. We'll give you a call tomorrow. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you back. I went to bed that night and I'm spiritual. I believe in a higher power. I know that there's a God, there's something greater than all this. I'm not the person that you're going to find reading the Bible or in church or at the mosque or with the Quran or whatever. I grew up Muslim. I definitely believe that my relationship with God is a personal one. Um, and that night before I went to bed, I said a prayer. I'm like, God, I feel conflicted, and what I'm doing right now doesn't fulfill my my needs as a person. It has nothing to do with finances or work. If there's something better for me out there,
Yeah.
let me know. I went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I get a phone call, and it's Dan Kennedy. Hadn't talked to the guy in 3 months. He's like,
Yeah,
Harris, what are you
because you
doing? I'm
you
like,
planted the seed, and then hey, got
yeah,
nothing, and now here we
yeah,
are.
yeah. And I said the prayer the night before, and I'm going about my day and, doing my emails and making phone calls and taking notes. And phone rings. It's Dan. Hey, what's up? He's like, nothing. How you doing? I'm like, I'm good, man. He's like, you happy over there? I'm like, yeah, I'm getting by. It's good. He's like, he goes, so I've got this opportunity, and the guy that we hired to replace you, he put in his notice, and he's like, I haven't even told the ownership group yet. And he goes, I want to make sure that you would be cool coming back here if I was able to get you back on board. I'm like, bro, send me the contract. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, that's what I needed to hear. He's like, let me make a couple phone calls. And 2 hours later, he's like, dude, check your email.
There it was.
And I had the opportunity to come back to this amazing company. Sometimes the grass is not greener on the other side. Sometimes you don't know how good you had something until you lost it. And the reason why I'm tying this all into it is I'm fortunate enough to work for a company that's American owned and American manufactured, right? We have tech support Monday through Friday during normal business hours. But as the sales reps, we have a secret cell phone number that we can get to if it's 7 a.m. on a Saturday.
You know how many
Right?
people want that cell phone number?
Oh yeah. Well, I've got it, right? So that's what I tell my people. I'm like, dude, let me take ownership of your needs, right? Like, let me be the one responsible. I want to be the one that you work with. This is what my intentions were getting in this industry is I want to take ownership of the transaction. So if I need to make that phone call for you, I will, right? If I need to go talk to somebody at a higher level, I will. If you need me to talk to the bank on your behalf because you need to get financing for more than 50, 60, $100,000, whatever you're buying from me, and you need $2 million for something else. I got that relationship with those people. Let's make those, tell me what you need. And let me go to bat for you, Um, and what the last few years have taught me is to just keep doing what I'm doing. Right. I've been good at that. Like it took me a couple of years of doubting myself and being like, am I as good as I once was? To realize it was never even a contest. I was just genuinely being myself, and I'd really gotten away from that.
Yeah.
And to go back to being my true, genuine self, all the other little pieces just fall into line, right? It's like do the little things. All those little things add up to the big things, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm fortunate. I work for this great company. The product's made in the US. Even during COVID, when everybody else had 20, 30, 40-week lead times, we had 2-week lead times, man. Like some ridiculous amount. It's well over 90% of the products and components that go into a hydromassage unit's made in the United States or
Yeah.
sourced out of the United States. The console is an Android tablet, right? That gets imported from China or whatever. I have people call me and they're like, hey, I need to get XYZ. What's your lead time? I'm like, oh, based on where you are in the country, we should have it there within 2 weeks. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I got it. We've got a couple of new products that we've put out since COVID. One of them is called the Cryo Lounge. It is a ice and heat therapy product for recovery, right? So as opposed to getting into an actual cryo chamber and getting blasted with negative 240 degrees of liquid nitrogen and stuff, it's more of a long time. Well, it's a 15-minute session, so you're able to focus cold, like down to 28 degrees, on specific body parts that need recovery. They need to be iced, that you've got inflammation or whatever on there, and then it's offset by heat. So you got sections of the body that are down to 28 degrees. You have other sections of the body that are offset with heat at 114 degrees, and you can contrast that. So now you're able to do an ice plunge and like a heat therapy, like getting into a sauna or whatever, but you're never disrobed. You're never getting wet. You don't have to replace water or anything. And then the other thing that we put out that really ties into this conversation a lot is the Relax Space Wellness Pod. The Relax Space Wellness Pod is a multi-sensory mental health unit. It's a 15-minute break from the craziness of the day, right? What Paul Lunter realized you know, well before COVID, but COVID obviously put it over the edge, is people need to have that reset during their day, you know, whether it's a single mom at home raising kids, if it's an executive running a company, if it's somebody that's, you know, doing physical labor or whatever it is, to be able to just disconnect from the world. And whether you're focusing on breathing exercises or mindfulness exercises, or you're just doing a getaway, you know, you're sitting in this pod, it's a heated, like reclined thing. You're looking up, there's a 43-inch screen above you. You're getting hit with different breezes, different scents, audio, vision. Like you're flying through beaches and everything. You're listening to the water lap up at your feet, and you're
It's
like
really immersive.
super immersive.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing pieces of equipment that we have out there. And because we're more than Hydromassage now, we've changed the brand name. So officially this year, we have started referring to ourselves as Wellness Space Brands. Hydromassage is obviously still one of our products and components, but now we've got the cryo lounge and the relax space in there as well. And I made the shift from commercial fitness equipment to recovery um, because I saw that that was the direction that we were heading in. You
Yeah.
know, it was definitely a trend that was gathering a lot of steam pre-COVID. COVID came and really disrupted a lot of people's plans. People lost their businesses. Obviously, you know, we had gym shut down. Some people that have been in the industry for decades had to,
Yeah.
you know, stop doing what they loved and everything. So I was up and running and doing pretty good with it pre-COVID. I left for, you know, almost that 1 year time period, and then coming back now that the economy's, you know, well, we'll leave the economy alone. Now that, you know,
we already talked about guns. We better leave that one
yeah,
alone right now.
yeah, leave that alone, man. So what's happened, you know, is as people have reopened and everything, their members, uh, their members are looking for recovery solutions,
Yeah.
right? You look at what's being talked about in social media and what the, you know, fitness influencers are talking about and what the professional athletes are doing and have been doing for a really long time. Recovery is huge, and it allows um, a gym owner to do a multitude of different things. It's definitely filling a need. It's definitely a trend. People are looking for it. I've had people choose brand X over brand Y if everything else is the same, but this brand has recovery services, even if it's at a premium or at a markup or something, you know. Um, I forget if it was Club Industry or URSA, but there was that survey where they said like over 80% of gym goers now say they go to the gym for mental health benefits, you know. Um, so the pros of recovery for the end user is it makes them feel good, right? It helps whatever ailing body parts and issues that they have. If you feel good, you're going to want to come back again. And you know, obviously, if you keep coming back, you're going to keep that membership longer. You're more inclined to invite your friends and family to come join you and stuff like that. As far as the business side of things go, there are people that have turned stagnant areas of their gym that were never revenue generators or just something that maybe with COVID they did away with, and they're able to repurpose it into a recovery space. And I'm not talking like, hey, you got to buy my stuff, right? Whether you're putting in a stretch area with foam rollers and bands, whether you're going with percussion instruments, if you're using compression, you know, you can start getting really serious with it. You know, you can, you know, obviously I've got an amazing suite of products. There's cryotherapy, you got red light. Like I've seen some people go all in. I have some clients that have made nearly $500,000 investment in their facilities where they're like, hey, you know, I've got 8 racquetball courts. And at any given time, I might have 2 of them running. This one's turned into a tribe studio. This one's turned into a Pilates studio. Well, I'm going to take these 2 here, blow the wall out in between them, and turn it into a recovery space, you know? And they bring in the full gamut. You
What are
can
you
go in
seeing in terms of recovery being integrated in this industry? How many are adopting it? Because it, you know, following the trends, and you know, we've been in the game for a while now.
there.
There's these trends that come and go. It really seems like recovery is here to stay. Are you finding people still resistant, or are they really open and seeing the case study after case study that implementing a recovery, it would seem like now people need to see that incorporating recovery is almost as fundamental as having an area for mobility and stretching,
Yeah.
almost as important as having a cardio area. Or is it too, are we still a little early? How do you see the industry right now with recovery?
I don't think that we're early. I think right now we're at the tipping point where you're going to see the floodgates open. In all the research that's out there and what all the industry publications and stuff are saying and what operators are doing, um, we're seeing recovery becoming more and more mainstream. There's lots of changes that you're seeing on the gym floor, right? You go in there now, and at one point in time, you might be in a 40,000 square foot box and have 60 to 80 pieces of cardio. And you would have one or two sets of selectorized, unilateral and bilateral motion movements. You'd have a set of dumbbells, some benches, maybe an Olympic bench. You would never see a platform. And now you walk into these places and there's half of the cardio that used to be in there. There might be one selectorized line. You're seeing more plate loaded lines in there. And then there's 5 racks, there's 10 racks, there's a dozen multi-adjust benches. You got dumbbells going from 5 pounds up to 150s. And everybody, last night I was at the gym, right? I live here in Vancouver, Washington. Mike Williams has some amazing gyms. He opened up this Gold's Gym in Hazel Dell, built the thing out from the ground up. There was barely anybody on cardio. And I was waiting in line to get a bench. I was waiting in line to go get some free weights. Like, I was working in with people. On the weekends when I go in there, I wind up sharing my platform.
Yeah.
People are waiting and they're like, hey man, how much longer until you're done squatting? And I'm like, well, I'm done squatting, but I'm going right to deadlifts next. So if you want the squat rack, that's yours. I will give you those 4 or 5 feet. You give me these 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah.
And you're seeing more and more people sharing this stuff. And Mike, if you're listening to this, you need to get more squat racks and more platforms.
And don't let people do biceps curls in the squat.
And don't let people do bicep curls. And the same thing is happening in the recovery space, right? I'm seeing places that previously might not have even had stretching areas. Stretching areas are one of the most valuable spaces that you can build in your gym floor. On any given time, if you go into a gym that's got a stretch area with just some mats and foam rollers and stuff, there's always people in there. They're always, whether it's pre-workout or post-workout, getting their stretch and getting their mobility and their flexibility in. You're definitely seeing all the high volume, low cost guys going to recovery, whether it's my product or whether it's, another brand massage chair or whatever like that. They're putting these things in because it's an immediate understanding when the client experiences that during a club tour. And you're like, hey, yeah, it's $9.99. That's the ad you got to walk in the door. But for $20, you're getting this service every single day. And people are like, well, yeah, I thought it was going to be the weird, goofy chair that you got at the mall or at the airport. And this thing's like legit makes me feel good. And you're like, yeah, you can have that every single day, bud. And it's for X amount of dollars. So people are generating that additional revenue. So the high volume, the high volume, the high volume, low cost guys, they are definitely using recovery now as a means to generate additional revenue. And when I mean generate additional revenue, they're making substantial money off of this.
Do you think it's a mistake for people to, like, bigger boxes? I'm sure there may be some physical plant limitations with size, but maybe you have a solution. But for those to not even consider recovery, they're probably, the sense that I'm getting is they're missing out on a very key segment of this industry that is growing rapidly. Like you said, it's at the tipping point. What would you say to somebody? And again, I reiterate, this is not us shilling hydromassage, but it's just, how do you create an experience for a member that is different than what we've been used to for 2 decades and old vets in the industry that have been here for a long time? Recovery, like, small group training was the thing, still a thing. Obviously, the mobility aspect to it, group exercise. It seems like it's almost becoming, you got to have some type of recovery in there. operator that's on the fence, like how do you get them to understand this is your opportunity in your community to really differentiate or be a part of this trend wall right before the tipping point? What do you say
No,
to the person on the fence?
yeah, that's a great question, and I'll give you a real life story, a real life scenario that happened. I was working with a gym owner, and he was a franchisee of a major international brand, and chose to debrand, and wanted to bring a different look and a different feel, and a completely different atmosphere to his existing members, and to draw in new people and everything. And for 2 years, his management team and his operations team had continuously gone to him and being like, listen, man, we've been going to these trade shows. We've been going to all these things that you're sending us. And this is what we're seeing. Recovery is it. Like, we need to bring recovery in. We need to bring recovery in. And the gym owner was like, yeah, we're a different demographic. I'm not the $9.99 guy that needs a reason to bump somebody up another $10 or $15, and they're like, that it has nothing to do with that. So he rebranded, beautiful facilities, looks amazing. And eventually he finally gave in to what his management team was telling him. So he calls me up one day and he's like, hey, why don't you write me a quote for 2 of your units? How soon can I get them? This, that, and the other. I sent him the quote. He balks at the price. He's like, okay, well, you got anything cheaper? Are there any refurbs back there? You got some, demo units floating around that need a new home? Did a little research and I found him a couple. I'm like, yeah, I got a couple of units. We'll save you some money. He signed on the dotted line. We delivered them. I showed up on the day to install it. And he's on his laptop, just working away, doing his thing. My installers got the machines all set up and working and everything. And I demoed the staff, showed them how to do it, told them, now go start grabbing clients and start bringing people over here. And after I had done my training, I'm sitting back talking to the gym owner, and we're just shooting the shit about, where we're going to go to lunch later that day or whatever. Client after client, member after member comes walking up to him. And they're like, hey, are these things here on demo, or are they staying here permanently? How much does this cost to add to my membership? How often can I use this? So he looks at me and he goes, better try one of these things, huh? I'm like, yeah, you better. I'm like, you just spent over $30,000 to not even, to have never demoed it blows my mind. And his GM was like, yeah, he's never tried this. He's never tried this product that he just bought. So I take him over. I set him up on the machine, show him, quick little, here's how to use it, set him up for a full 10-minute session. And I go back to the lobby or whatever. His 10 minutes are up and he calls me. He waves me over. He's like, hey, Haris, come here. So I go over there and I'm like, what's up? He's like, dude, I effed up. I was like, excuse me? He's like, dude, I effed up. He's like, this is my busiest and highest demographic gym that I own. And I put refurb units in here. He's like, these things are amazing. How quickly can you get me 6 more? I need you to put 3 new ones here, 3 new ones at this other gym, and take these 2 and put them in my other gym. They'll be fine with it or whatever. Yeah, and then like, as soon as you can sign a quote, he's like, yeah, get it to me. I pull my laptop out, get a quote over to him. And a 10-minute demo convinced him to go from 2 units to a total of 8. And because of how he runs his business and the model and the price point that he had, he decided not to bill for it. He's like, this is inclusive. It's an amenity. Everybody that's already in membership is getting this, right? We do this thing. It's called our Nifty 150. Every machine that's online, every machine that's operating, we have visibility of. We can see how many uses it gets. If there's any service or support issues, we can proactively dial in and take care of things and do resets and software updates. We got our support team dialed in probably better than any vendor that I've worked for in the past. Long story short, this Nifty 150 that's measuring the top 150 hydromassage accounts globally. And I think we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 6,500 or 7,500 facilities that we're monitoring. His 3 gyms are within the top 75. There's one that's always floating around 75. There's one in the 40s range. There's one in the 20s range. They're getting thousands of usages a month out of each one of these facilities. There has not been a time that I haven't walked into his facilities that every machine's not up and running, right?
What do you think it did for his business, in terms of the customer experience? Anecdotally, since it's included, Retention probably is a big thing.
It helped
'Cause
him meet the goal that he had, which was, I want to debrand from this major global brand. I want to bring something else in that's going to be more receptive in my community. I want to offer services and solutions that are value adds that people do find beneficial, that they don't think they're being nickel and dimed with, you know? So you've got this entire spectrum of the 999 guys that are using it very successfully to drive significant revenue, to some of the highest end clubs that I could name that everybody would know who those owners and operators are. And some of those guys charge for it, you know, and some of those guys bring it in as an amenity. But at the end of the day, recovery is not a product that you can sell via brochure. It's not something that your sales staff can talk your client into. If you don't have a dedicated sales staff that's willing and able to implement it as part of their facility tours, where they physically take you by your hand and say, Lyle, this is X, this is Y, this is Z. This will be part of your membership. Or you can have this for a really small add on. These are the benefits. Try this really quick if you've never tried it before. A 3-minute demo on my product will sell it faster than any brochure that I can give you, or any word of mouth, or, you know, peer review or something like that. And that's what I tell folks. I've got clients of mine. We're able to gather some really interesting metrics off our products.
what do you tell, in terms of, I don't know what you can share, but the trajectory of a business as a new revenue center for
It depends on how you bring it in. If
yeah.
you're there, if you're looking at recovery as a revenue generating component of your business, if you bring it into an existing facility, you're going to have a little bit of work to do. You know, you'll probably be looking at an 18 to 24 month time period before you're making substantial revenue. You know, you're going to get, you know, small percentages and small wins as people start adopting this and bringing it in. If you're bringing recovery, whatever the products may be, especially if you're going to charge for it, if you notice, anytime somebody new signs up at our gym, they get a gym bag or a towel, they get a water bottle, they get something cool. But Joe, that still walks on the treadmill, even though that's really not doing him any good in the last 10 years, he's made his payment every single month. He comes to the gym 3 times a week. He hasn't gotten shit, right? If you go over and hand Joe a water bottle or a t-shirt, he will proudly advertise for you and sing your praises from the hilltops. What I'm saying is, if you're an existing facility and you bring recovery in, regardless of my product or somebody else's product, reward your existing members.
Yeah.
Give them a 30-day pass. This is coming in. We're going to be charging X amount of dollars for anybody that wants to add it on. Because of your loyalty, you've been such a good client. For the next 30 days, you have access to all of it. They will use it. That will help drive revenue. A good portion of those folks will say, you know what, it's worth 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever, add it on my membership. I've been using it for the past month. If you bring recovery into a pre-sale, you'll knock it out of the park, right? If recovery is a part of pre-sale and you got a trailer, or you got, you know, some rented space across the place where you're building your gym, where people can come in and see the 2Ds and 3Ds, and you might have 1 or 2 strength pieces in there, and you might have a treadmill and an elliptical. You put in your recovery piece, whatever your keystone recovery piece is going to be, whether it's my product or somebody else's, and the member comes in, they're thinking about joining, you're like, dude, you got to check this out. Like, before we even talk about the different packages or stuff, like, hop on this hydromassage really quick. I'm gonna give you a 3-minute demo on it. These people open up with significant premium membership sales. I'm talking like 50, 60, 75%. And that's remarkable to be able to like throw those kinds of numbers out there and say, at pre-sale, we demoed everybody that came in that wanted to look at the gym, and your product was in here, and we sat them down on it for a 3-minute demo, and we were able to get 50 to 75% of those people to add on before the gym had even opened. You know, so I will tell you, if you're building a brand new gym from the ground up, if you don't have your recovery components in your pre-sale area where you can physically demo it to your products, to your potential members, you're missing the boat.
That's substantial. How many, from your experience, because I know you work nationally, you've done global stuff too, but with pre-sales going in, are you seeing this uh, in a lot of pre-sales that are starting to shift. I haven't heard of that before, and having a recovery piece in a pre-sale makes a lot of sense. You
Mhm.
know, you have preview offices. You're going to have the equipment. If you have a trailer, I think you probably have a solution to fit it. You know, depending upon
Yeah,
how wide the trailer is. But
right.
are you seeing this as a growing trend? Like you're seeing some significant success because that premium upgrade membership. That's a great percentage right there.
Yeah. And I tell everybody when I'm working with them, hey, is this? Are we going into an existing gym? Because we're gonna come at it with this with this angle. Is this going into a pre-sale? If you're going into pre-sale, do you actually have a physical space where people are going to be able to come in and view what you're going to offer? If so, you need to have one of your pieces show up early. It needs to be there. Like I had a gym owner who had successfully opened all kinds of gyms, and they finally new component with Hydromassage as their recovery product, and they chose to bring it in during pre-sale. Grand opening happens, the club's up and running. They pulled me aside and they're like, "This product has sold more premium memberships than my sales staff has." He's like, "We don't
Yeah.
even talk to them unless they've been on this first. And now that we're open, we don't talk to them. A salesperson is not allowed to approach them until they've been on your product first." Um, he opened at 72% premium membership
Wow. Yeah.
because that product was in his pre-sale trailer. He's like, it's the best 2,500 bucks I ever had to spend to upgrade electrical and all that other crap to make it, fit in that space. But he's like, it paid itself off in dividends. And now we're a brand standard. They don't open a gym without our product in there.
Yeah.
So there's lots of success stories like that. If you're opening up a pre-sale, I would highly recommend. Obviously, recovery is a giant part of it. Have a recovery solution in place or in mind. Reach out to me or other industry, folks that are in this realm and talk to us. But definitely bring your products in there. Hell, I don't even care if it's a percussion gun or two. They're sitting there looking at the different contracts and stuff. Hand them some, have them hit their pecs with, a percussion gun. They're gonna be like, "Holy crap, yeah, man, that's
Yeah.
gonna be part of your membership if you add $10 to it or whatever." So,
Oh, it seems
so
like
let's
it's
get back.
but it's to put a bow on this one. You've done rebrands, pre-sales, probably some turnarounds where you include recovery,
Mhm.
and it just changes like how much because you've been in a lot of gyms, and I'm sure you've seen the before and an after. And obviously, there's a biased opinion here because you work for the group, but I trust your opinion because you can be very objective. What's the vibe change like when you add this type of service that it brings to the gym? Like, what difference does it create in terms of like feeling of the
At the end
gym
of
and
the
how
day,
customers feel see it?
At the end of the day, the members understand that you're making an investment in them. So this thing like sells itself. That's what the vibe changes. People love it. They start talking to each other about it, and they really truly appreciate it. Another good time to implement recovery is if you're ever looking at doing pricing increases. If you're looking at doing a dues increase and you bring a recovery solution in, like I said, whether it's mine or somebody else's product, and you're like, hey, dues go up across the board $10 a month, $15 a month, where, obviously everybody's dealing with the same exact thing that they are, as far as the economy goes. But you have this now every single day. You're going to find that you're not going to have catastrophic losses. The one or two people that are going to leave were probably your problem children anyway, you know? Um, so there's lots of different ways and avenues to bring it in, whether you're doing it to increase, um, retention, whether you want to, generate revenue off of it or anything like that. But the vibe definitely changes for the positive amongst the members and how they talk about it to one another. Recovery is huge. There are companies now that are doing it as standalone that has nothing to do with gyms. They're individual boxes. They're not even connected into facilities that have gyms. They're not even in plazas or shopping areas that have a gym within the area. And they're literally doing just recovery. I This last week we were down in Florida where we did our hydromassage tours and everything. And the last day that we were there, after 3 days of whining and dining and all that fun stuff, you get exhausted and you're like, shit, now I got like a 6 hour flight to get back to the West Coast. So a couple of my clients were like, hey, this recovery thing that's happening, The brand is called The Covery. That's growing like wildfire. They've got red light. They're doing IV. They're doing hyperbaric. They're doing like it is a medical clinic. There are nurses and stuff on staff that are administering these recovery solutions to you. And we went in and, it's like, well, got a full tour and saw the different things they offered. And I was like, guys, let's do something. We're all having to get on planes and get back to the West Coast. I'm like, let's do some IVs, and I wound up getting an IV treatment. It was a liter of, saline mixed with like all these different components and stuff to it. And I walked out of there, and within a couple of hours, by the time I was ready to get to the airport, I felt refreshed, man. I was like, all of these last few days worth of, time shifts, eating out, staying out late, cocktails, all that stuff. I'm like, I feel great. And you have these business models now that have nothing to do with health and fitness and gyms, and they're hyper focused on just recovery. So, I mean, if you're a gym owner and you're listening to this and you're on the fence about it, somebody's going to come into your neighborhood and do it and probably do it better than you.
For some of the up and comers, maybe people that are on the fence, and not necessarily recovery, but just your knowledge in the industry. Let me ask you a few questions and just get your insights on it. For someone that's coming up in the game that really wants to take the next step, but they feel stuck, maybe they've been at a position for a while. What advice would you give them to take that next step, whether it's to be noticed, to advance, to get more qualified? But what words of wisdom would you have to say to this individual that wants to further their career in the fitness industry?
I mean, fear is the greatest detractor of anybody's hopes and aspirations. If you're not afraid, you're not doing something right. Like if taking that leap or stepping out of your comfort zone or whatever is a little uncomfortable or weird, or you're a little scared, just jump. First thing that's going to happen is you're going to fail. And if you learn from it, it's not a mistake. If your heart and your mind is set for something that's going to better you, better your life, better your community, and there's a component of fear there, just jump. Worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to learn how to do it right the next time. Best thing that's going to happen is you're going to surpass any of your wildest dreams or aspirations. Don't be afraid.
What would you tell someone that, again, same scenario, but what's a habit that you'd say, hey, consider adding this habit into your daily routine to help you really just become the best that you can be?
In the last 2 years, the main takeaway that I got from this is I can't be anything for anyone if I'm not there for myself. Take care of yourself. Make the time for yourself. Whether that's 30 minutes on the spin bike, an hour of lifting, one day a week out on the river fishing. Find the thing that fulfills your specific need and like fill your own cup first, because you're not gonna be able to do anything to help anybody else out if you're drained and empty. Like fill your cup first. Take care of yourself. Do your thing. Find the thing that you love and just do that. Make
That's
it
awesome.
a habit.
That's awesome. You've shared a couple stories of how leaders have come and really allowed you to spread your wings. What was it? What would you say is a quality in leadership that you look for that really makes you drawn to them and makes you want to follow them? Because there is a saying that in order to be a good leader, you also have to be a good follower. So I'm curious, of the leaders that you've worked for and worked with, what are some of the qualities that really have resonated with you, that have inspired you and motivated you?
The folks that I've worked for and with that I've had the most amount of respect for and enjoyed working with and for are the people that are always willing to learn. If you walk into the room and you're like, I'm the shit, I know everything, I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm the strongest guy in the room, I'm the fastest guy in the room, you're going to get humbled really, really quick. And the people that I've enjoyed working for the most are the ones that are smart. They are the leaders, they are the innovators, but they also know that they can learn from everybody that's around them. They're willing to ask questions and say, hey, what did we do good here? What did we mess up on? Like, be completely honest with me. It's not going to affect your job or how I think about you. Like, give me your feedback. How would you do things differently if you were in my shoes? Right. So I think the best leaders are the ones that are willing to learn from everybody around them.
Yeah, 100%. And then I'm curious, in terms of what you do to get better, what are some of your habits? Do you you read a certain number of books, listen to a certain number of podcasts, a certain number of YouTube University, go to trade? Like, what is in Harris's repertoire to continually improve and get better and really try to take it to the next level and help others?
I'm a hands-on learner. I will gravitate to the smartest guy in the room and be a fly on the wall. I will ask to travel with my peers that have been doing this longer than me that might have great reputations. There are some folks that I've learned from over the years that no amount of experience or failure and mistake and learning on my own would have amounted to the amount of time they dedicated to me to allow me to sit at their table and to learn from them and just do that. So I seek people that are successful, people that are motivated, people that are positive, and I try to surround myself with them. Um, I take it down really basic. Like I travel a lot in the car, so I'm an audiobooks guy. Like I got print books coming out the wazoo, and I wind up getting through a few chapters, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go on Audible and buy the audiobook version because I got a 4 hour drive coming, and I think I'm gonna get more out of it that way.